morning. Welcome to another edition of Money Truth Moments with our very own Money Whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How you doing, Judy?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Carlos?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. We're getting to the end of October. It's a beautiful day after such a rainy weather that we've had. And then something that's always fun too. We're getting towards the end of Halloween too. So that's a lot of fun. So it's a great week for sure. And I'm glad we get to spend our moments together this Tuesday morning. Folks, thank you for joining us.
And the holidays are coming. I'm so excited. This is a fun time of year. We have not only the holidays on the calendar, but it's birthday season at our house. So we have a lot of birthdays November and December. So I'm really excited.
Cool. That's awesome. And folks, thank you for joining us as always. Every Tuesday morning, we are here at 8 o'clock, Money Truth Moments with Judy. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. Feel free to share our stream as well too. Share it because there is a lot of wisdom that we cover every week. And speaking of wisdom, today's topic is going to be actually a heavy one that a lot of us do not understand. So I want to make sure you guys are ready. You guys have some paper, have a pen ready. There you go. And then that's going to help you later on in the show. We'll get to that point a little bit later. But Judy, today's topic, we're going to be talking about financial investments. For a lot of us, we have no clue where to start, what it is. Who should we be talking to? What should we be investing in? People will tell you, do this, do that. And at the end of the day, you end up more confused than when you started. So start us off with, what is financial investments? I mean, how do we even get to talking about it?
Yeah, it is definitely a difficult area to navigate for most people that either didn't grow up, reading the stock reports or the Wall Street Journal. They didn't have parents maybe that shared all of that. Some people learn the formal training at school. They'll learn economics or learn, financial planning. But most people just kind of navigate it, just like hitting the rocks along the way in their ship. So it's very difficult. It's very broad. There are so many moving parts. Just the word investments. But if you asked 1,000 people what that meant to them, you won't get two answers that match. I mean, it's so amazing. But what I wanted to focus on today for people to just give them a handle on how to approach this is just to define what investments are generally, and then just give some very practical pointers as to how to find the person that can help you, or the people or the team that can help you. Because if you want to go to school for 3, 4, 5, 10 years and try to figure it out, you can. But most people are doing their life. They're in their business. They're raising their family. They're doing their gardening, their hobbies. They don't want to read the Wall Street Journal and try to navigate this and figure it out. And what you don't know from the outside looking in is it changes all the time. There's new laws all the time. There's new taxation provisions all the time. There are new products all the time. New rules. I mean, it changes all the time. So even if you figured it out a few years later, if it's not your industry, if you're not in the middle of it, it's going to change. And the information that was totally accurate and helpful a year or 2 or 5 ago, it's not going to even be relevant now. So I think it's advisable for most people to find that person, find someone that not only knows what they're doing, but they want to help you. And the question is, well, how do I know when I found that person?
Right. So when we're looking and we're going through the process, I know that, there's some of us that have started at a young age because we've had the parents who are financially, sound and they've got it and they're very successful and so forth. We have the other spectrum where, my parents were, let's just save this, save that. Forget the stock market, because you never know that somebody else is playing with your money. You know what I mean? Keep it under the mattress. Remember the old saying with that too, keep it safe or just put it in the bank, let it just sit there regardless. Yeah. So it's a concept, I think, that really scares a lot of people because of the lack of education and understanding. Right. Mm-hmm. So if I'm coming to a professional such as yourself, and I'm going to sit down with you, right before this, I obviously have my own personal questions, but what are some questions that I should be prepared to ask it's basically an interview, right? When you're talking to a financial expert, mm-hmm. right?
Both ways. You're being interviewed at the same time.
Right. So what are some things that you've seen in your experience of questions that maybe we should be asking somebody that it's going to handle our livelihood, right? Our entire money, and vice versa. What are some questions that we can expect from a financial planner that we should be prepared for?
That's a great question. A question. Questions. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, the easiest way to find the answer to that question is to go Google, what questions should I ask my advisor? And you're going to find from every financial institution, every bank, every broker dealer, you're going to find a list of those questions. All of them are going to hit the technical. I think what will be really helpful for all of you out there is to do some of that. I wouldn't show up with a list of 50 questions. I've heard of people doing that. I don't think it's a really good use of your time. And they're going to answer with all, the answers that they've been trained to tell you. But I think really, if you look at it from a broad perspective, like a holistic view, what you're really vetting, what you're really interviewing for and trying to uncover is what I call the 4H. It's the money truth method. There's the 4 H's. So you want to know what's in their head, right? What do they know? Can they take care of me? Do they know the difference between a bond and a stock? What's their expertise? All of that. But beyond the head and, maybe the training they've had or the education that they have, what is their heart? What are their hands? How do they approach? So it's head, heart, hands, how. 4H. And if you approach the questions that you have, the inquiry, the curiosity that you have around those 4 H's, you're going to have a whole lot better chance of finding a good fit for you. Because they might have gone to Harvard and they studied economics and they know everything about every theory that's ever been there. But you sit down and you find out you're a dog lover and they hate dogs. I mean, how do we want to do life with this person? Do we want them, or you love to give money away and they'd rather you just collect it, right? You want to find that perfect alignment. Some of those are heart issues, right? So if we go through them, shall we start with head? Like when you're interviewing for head, this is going to be the list of questions you find online. It's going to be, where did they go to school? What credentials do they have? Are they a CPA? Are they a CFP? Are they a CFA? There's all kinds of, everything starts with C, it seems like, in finance. But what credentials do they have? Did they go to college even? Most people in the investment world didn't even go to college. They took a few classes. They're basically sales representatives selling products or selling services related to management of money. And that's not a bad thing, but you want to know that. There are some who are educated and some who are trained very well in sales. And I kind of want to know, if I'm going to purchase a car, is someone who's been in the car industry for 20 years and know everything that's under the hood, what kind of tires, what kind of technology, what kind of wires are in there, what kind of computers it has. I don't want someone that learned how to close or learned how to handle objections when I say whatever I say, right? I don't want a salesperson. I want an expert. And it's really more rare than you think when you're looking only at the investment perspective. There's sales training and a little bit of product training that helps with the sales training, but there's not a lot of financial expertise underneath that for most. And I don't want to throw everybody under the bus that's in the financial world, but you just want to know that it's an industry that is designed around sales. So the questions that you ask about the head are going to be, what credentials do they have? How many years of experience? What kind of a firm are they working with? What do they know about the tools they have to help me? That's the head.
So let me pause here for a second. And folks, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you guys being here, sharing our stream also. And we're here every Tuesday morning at 8:00 with Judy Copenbarger on Money Truth Moments. Also, please follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. All of our social media is on there. And we're going to talk about some of these resources that are available on our website a little bit later on in the show. We're talking about financial investments, which is overwhelming for a lot of folks. I know it is for me, and Judy is going through the 4H process, which is also something that we covered in a previous episode. So I encourage you guys to watch some of the previous streams as well too, because she really dove into a lot of deep content when it came to 4-H, more importantly about her, which is great. So you get to know Judy in a different perspective too. So I appreciate you sharing that. So, so we talked about HIT, and I think it's some great content and questions that you've given us, stuff to think about. So let's move on also to the most, I think, what can get us in trouble and not in trouble, which is the heart, right? So emotions, right? That's the big one too.
Absolutely. It's kind of our why. It's our value system. It's what lights us up. Are we givers? Are we very opposed to paying taxes, or are we open handed when it comes to taxes? Everybody has a different, place on the spectrum for that. So we talked about the heart, what this expert will know if we're vetting or interviewing them. Now it's the heart. It's that alignment. It's that kind of peace that you get when you're with somebody that just gets you. They get your family, they get what you're trying to accomplish. They're interested in your goals, and they help you, with clarifying them and achieving them. So it's someone that really gets you, and you just kind of feel like when you're with them, they're for you. They're not trying to do
Right.
something to you or eat you, they're
Right.
just, they're for you. And so it's an alignment of the heart, similar values. It doesn't mean that you're in the same ski club or you golf at the same golf course necessarily, but you just have kind of a like-mindedness. You're like, birds of the same kind of flock. So that's the heart. And that's something you're not going to get from a list of questions when you Google it. You're not going to get from a book. You're not going to get from going to their website and reading what hobbies they have. It's going to be someone that when you're with, you're just like, yeah, this is my kind of person. That's the heart.
And that's also very important, because you need to develop that level of trust, right? Sometimes it takes a little while to build it. Sometimes it's immediate, and
Mm-hmm.
but it's like you said too. It's you sit with that person, you ask the correct questions, and by starting using your head and asking those specific questions, I think it just starts creating that momentum into what the outcome is going to be. If this is the right fit for me or not too. So with that said too, so let's talk about the hands as part of the 4-H process. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we covered the heart, then we go to the hands. The hands is the doing part. So if you're interviewing a firm or an investment advisor, how big is the firm? How small is the firm? Some people want to know it's just a little family firm and everybody knows you by name. They know what kind of cream to put in your cappuccino. Some people prefer a big corporation. They feel very secure that there's, 100 reps that could help them, 100 advisors that could help them out. Geography might be a big deal. I want to make sure that my person is, down the block in the strip mall where I can drop in anytime, have a cup of coffee, and ask a question about my IRA, right? Or it might be a broader view that you have. I want to be able to, when I'm in my Boston office, know that I could go down and handle my business there. So you just got to look for that fit with the kind of office, the kind of staff they have. You'll want to know if they have a certain expertise. So investments are very broad, and there are many categories and many purposes for investments. You might have a firm or a person that is a retirement specialist. So they're really good about navigating the tax laws for retirement planning, for taking distribution in a tax-friendly way. Maybe that's their niche. Maybe their niche is bonds. They're expert at bonds. Everything that you need, they're going to answer the question with bonds. Other people will have expertise in ETFs or mutual funds, or maybe alternatives. Maybe all they do is real estate related investments. And no matter what problem you're trying to solve or what goal that you're trying to plan for, the answer is going to be that product that they sell, that they have expertise in. And if that's what you're looking for, make sure that that's, a good fit. If it's somebody more broad, I don't really care if it's an ETF or a mutual fund. I don't really care if it's a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. They can tell me, which is best. Then you can go to more of a general practitioner or a general investment advisor. And that's what you're going to see. Most strip malls, most retailers, most banks, now they all have cubbies and they get you in there and put the bright lights in your eyes. It's like
Right.
more than $10, they tackle you in the lobby. Get over here. We have investments for you. They're usually generalists and they're sales representatives. And so their job is to place you in investments that are good for, hopefully good for you, but mostly good for the bank. They make commissions, they bring in money, and they make revenue for the bank. They're employed by the bank. So you just want to be aware of how someone that you're working with, how they work with their hands, how they're compensated. Are they being paid a commission? Are they being paid a management fee? Are they charging you a fee? And this is something most people don't know. And I want to be careful how I say it. Most people in the investment world, most professionals in the investment world are professional salespeople. They are trained to sell. And when they sell a product or they place you in a product, they're paid for doing that as commission, or they paid a percentage of the money that they gathered in an investment portfolio, and they're paid for something that you bought. That's a professional salesperson. Very few investment advisors are professional investment advisors. If you think about a professional, what is it? Professional football player, they play football, but now they're paid to play football. And so people think they're getting a professional, but a professional what is what you need to ask. And it's part of the hands question. How are they compensated? Do they get money because I made a decision and said yes to something? Or they get money because I paid them a fee because they're a professional financial fiduciary or a professional financial investment advisor. I pay them a fee and they give me a service. Just like when you go to the doctor or your accountant or your attorney or any other professional architect, you pay them a fee, they give you a service. So there's kind of this general attitude among most professional investment salespeople that you should give advice for free. Well, what's the value of free advice? I don't want an architect to draw me up plans for this room I'm going to add to my house and not charge me because, unless it's my brother-in-law or something, right? It's like, am I really going to get the value? An attorney that works for free, and there are many attorneys that do pro bono work and they're brilliant, but chances are if I'm paying $20 an hour, I won't get the same level of professionalism from an attorney that charges me $400 an hour. I mean, you just common sense. And it's not 100% true, but you just want to be aware of that and then put it into your vetting process. How does that work? I mean, how do they drive that car and live in that house if all their advice is free? Where is it coming from? So those are really good questions to ask when you're considering the hands part. So we did head, heart, hands.
Yeah, and one thing I also wanted to follow up with that as well too is there? I've heard terminology that there's different types of investors, right? So when you're investing in something, so there's like, if I remember correctly, and you can correct me on this, there's different tiers, right? There's some that are kind of shy in investing, and I don't know what the word is for that. Yeah, the more mild ones, the more aggressive, and so forth and so forth. Can you talk a little bit about that as to the different types that they are?
Yeah, I think you're talking about risk tolerance.
Right.
So if you're an investor and you're just really kind of, adverse to risk, well, I really don't want to risk it. I worked really hard for those nickels and I don't want to risk them. We would say that's closely held, right? That would be conservative. And so conservative, when we're talking about a risk tolerance perspective, means you want to take less risk. Usually we're talking about market risk. So if I put money in the stock market and the stock market goes down, I feel like I've lost money. Might not always be true. Most of the time it's not true. But if I put it in a bank or if I put it in a CD, I know my principal won't move with the market. It's kind of like I keep looking, it's still there. I look again, it's still there. I look again, it's still there, right? And with the stock market, the value changes. So it's just understanding the difference. But that would be one end of the spectrum, very conservative. So things you do when you're conservative are things like bonds, because they're tied to the interest rates and they don't fluctuate very often. CDs, that's a certificate of deposit, and that's usually found at a credit union or bank. Same thing, it's tied to interest. What's not very exciting about them right now is interest has been low for a number of years, really over a decade now. It's like, well, if inflation is 3, 4, 5%, it's extremely on the rise right now. And I can only get 1% and inflation is going to be 4. I'm kind of losing ground, so, but that would be a conservative approach. On the other end, you have aggressive is like, I want all kinds of risk. I'm just going to throw it the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. It's kind of exciting to see. I might have this one little stock that blows up. It's like an emerging, brand new little baby company, but it turns out to be one of these big ones that we know to be huge now, a tech stock or something like that, pharmaceuticals right now. And I happen to hit the one. It's like that roulette wheel at Vegas,
Right.
all these numbers, and you get that one number. It's like, woo, I'm good for a while.
Yeah.
And so that would be aggressive. It's like you're comfortable with that. All those ways you could lose money, but that one way you might win. And then in the middle is moderate. And then there's a whole spectrum of other words in there that really are not that important to discuss and go deep on. But if you're moderate, you're kind of in the middle. So you could be moderately conservative or conservatively moderate. And so it's kind of this whole spectrum. And what's tricky about those words is every bank, every broker dealer, every fiduciary, every investment management firm has a different way of rating your risk tolerance. So what might be moderate at one firm could be aggressive at another, or it might be moderately aggressive or extremely aggressive at another. And so you can't really go only by those words. You have to go, there's a formula, a scientific formula for that. And there's a way to answer questions. And that's really kind of your heart. How comfortable are you with that? Not really. What risk would you take with that? Not so much, right? Or a lot. And there's a way to measure that and get a number. And the easiest way to think about it is a pie. And you have, different pieces of the pie. So if you have stock, you're going to be 100% in the market. If you have bonds, you're 0% in the market. You're getting interest rather than, the growth of the equity. And so if you have a pie and you have 70% stock and 30% interest related instruments like, bonds, 70-30 for most firms would be somewhere in the moderate range. And aggressive might start at 80% or 85%, but it really depends. I think the easiest analogy that I've ever come up with to help people understand that is, let's say you're driving your car and you're going 40 miles an hour, and you drive in front of a school on a Monday morning at 8:00, 40 miles an hour. That's way too fast. But you get out on the freeway, it's way too slow, but it's still 40 miles an hour. See, it's two different perspectives of the same speed. It's two different perspectives of the same risk tolerance. It's still 40, but in one area, it's way too much. In one area, it's way too little. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. That puts things in perspective too. Thank you, folks, for joining us. I mean, we've had a great discussion. If you didn't know about investments, you do now. You do know, actually, asking some of those specific questions that can help you make those decisions as well too. And I know we're getting short on time, but I want to see if you can talk about the last 4H, the how, and also talk a little bit right into as part of the how, some of the resources that are available also on your website, so folks are aware of that too, please.
Absolutely. Well, the how is to just have a map to come into this person, come into this firm, come into this team that you're trying to put together to help you with your investments. Come into them with an idea of a plan that you have. I want to be able to retire at age 65. How much money will I need? That's really my focus. Or I inherited this money from my grandfather. He wanted me to help all of my children have an education, or go on mission trips, or have beautiful weddings, or take a big trip to Hawaii on their 18th birthday, whatever it is. So I want to invest it for that purpose. So I want to make sure that every 5 years we get to drive a new car, whatever it is for you. Maybe we want to have a travel fund. Make sure that you go in there with your idea of what the money's for, because that should be important to the investment advisor to know what kind of investment would be appropriate. What's your risk tolerance? When do you need the money? What's it being set aside for? Instead of just lumping it into whatever product it is that they want to sell. It's like they have hammers, you're a nail, right? So that's one thing. So go in there, make sure that they're going to help you with your blueprint, with your roadmap, with your plan, with your, we call it a financial roadmap experience at our firm, but it's a financial roadmap of what's it all for? What do we want to do with it? When do we need it? And then we can go from there into the different kind of investments. But if you have someone that with the how, the fourth H, will work with you to make sure that your goals are achieved fully and on time, then you're golden. And that now you've got your fourth H locked up.
Awesome. And also, if you can briefly touch, I want to make sure that folks are aware of the free resources, folks, at judycopenbarger.com. I think that's important for them to know that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's this information that we're sharing now about how to find the right person, how to avoid the wrong person, probably most important, on judycopenbarger.com. It's there that you'll find not only some helpful articles, there's all kinds of videos. You can go on YouTube and watch the videos. But if you go to judycopenbarger.com, there's also a link that will get you to the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And that's a full education. It's courses on every area of finance, on investments, a lot on investments, on taxation, on legal instruments, wills and trusts and corporations, and when should I incorporate, all of that, all the different kinds of insurances even, and wealth management, the planning side of things, cash flow. How much should I have in savings? How much should I have working for me? What do I do when I sell a house and I have proceeds, right? So all of those things are answered in 5 pillars of finance on the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And right now we have it set up where you can watch any class that you want in any course for free. So you can go there and just learn not only how to find a person to help you, but it's really going to give you an understanding of knowing, where do I even start asking questions when I meet these people? So that's a resource for you. It's free, and I hope you enjoy it.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And folks, we are at the end of the show, but before we go, it's our very it's our Money Truth Challenge. Can't have a show without a challenge. So come on. What you got for us today?
Okay, here's your challenge. With your pen and with your paper, you're going to write down 3 things. The first one is choose an area of investments that you want to master, that you want to make progress in. Is it retirement planning? Is it having a family fund for travel? Is it saving for a house, saving for a car, helping your kids go to college? What is it? Make a list of those things. That's your second thing. So what's the area? Make a list of what are the potentials. And, if it's, I want my kids to go to college, what kind of college? You want to give them a couple years of junior college? Do you want to make sure there's enough money for them to go to a 4-year, really nice university? If they don't scholarship out, if they need the money, make sure it's there. What does that look like for you? So make a couple details and prioritize them. And then number 3, take action. Pick one of the things on your list of to-dos to do. And that's like this week by Sunday night at 5. Otherwise, it's on the list, Christmas comes and then Easter comes and then 4th of July comes. It's like, shoot, I should have done that. I remember I should have done it. So what can you do this week by Sunday night at 5 that will move you toward your goals, that will get you more organized, that will get you more equipped, that will help you find this person if you need it, that'll give you the resources you need to move you forward? So there you go. 3 things. Choose an area of investments, make your list of to-dos, and number 3, take action this week.
Awesome. You've heard the challenge. Make sure you guys write it down, share with us some of your thoughts, what you're going through, and we'd love to hear from you as well. So, hey, it's been a fantastic show, folks. If you're just joining us, you got to watch the replay. You want to learn about investments if you were afraid before, you're not going to be after you get to listen to some of Judy's wisdom on here as well too. It gives you just this sense of relief, right? Like you can actually understand and talk about it without having that fear of what to expect. So I want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think, you mentioned fear. The opposite of that, I think, is confidence. And
Yes.
using a method like this Money Truth method will at least give you a process to know you're on the right track and you won't fail.
Yeah. Judy, any last parting words before we go?
No, just gain confidence, gain knowledge, and you're going to be great.
Awesome. Folks, remember, join us here every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. This has been another Money Truth Moment with our very own Judy Copenbarger. Until next week, we'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.